Chapter 1. Ashcroft Manor by Daylight. Morning light fell differently upon Ashcroft Manor. What had seemed a palace of gold and music the night before now looked colder, sterner, as if the stone walls themselves had secrets to guard. The ivy climbing the facade stirred in the breeze like a restless thought, and the great front doors loomed with the weight of centuries. Miss Marple arrived at the break of dawn, having been invited, if one could call it that, by the sudden tragedy. The household had insisted it was a terrible accident, a misstep on polished marble, nothing more. But Miss Marple, with her quiet eyes and calm persistence, knew better. She had seen too much in her long life to mistake chance for design. Inside, the manor revealed itself in layers. The entrance hall stretched upward into shadows, its high ceiling echoing with the hush of footsteps. The chandeliers no longer glittered with gaiety. Instead, they glimmered like cold witnesses. Portraits of long-dead Ashcrofts stared down from their frames, their painted eyes sharp with judgment. The family was gathered, subdued but restless. Lady Constance Ashcroft, widow of Sir Lionel, sat with perfect poise, though her gloved hands trembled against her teacup. Her face was pale, but her gaze darted like a trapped bird. Henry Ashcroft, the eldest son, stood rigidly by the fireplace. His voice was firm when he spoke of honor and family dignity, but his jaw tightened too often, betraying unease. Clara Ashcroft, the younger daughter, appeared delicate, draped in silks of mourning too swiftly chosen. She wept with striking sincerity, yet her eyes, sharp behind tears, lingered on the family lawyer a moment too long. Victor Pembroke, cousin to the deceased and a frequent guest of the manor, hovered in the background with a smile that did not quite reach his eyes. He seemed to watch the others more than he mourned Sir Lionel. And of course, there were the servants, the butler, Mr. Hargreaves, solemn as ever but overly precise in his replies, the housekeeper, Mrs. Linton, whose silence was heavier than words, and a young maid, Anna, pale and nervous, as if she carried knowledge too heavy for her slender frame. Miss Marple sat quietly, knitting needles in her lap, though she did not knit a single stitch. She listened. To words, yes, but also to silences, the hesitations between statements, the glances exchanged when no one thought to notice. The library was her first request. The great room where Sir Lionel had fallen stood much as it had on the night of the masquerade. The spiral staircase rose like a spine of iron and oak, winding toward the upper balcony. Dust motes drifted lazily in the morning sun, falling upon the polished floor where a faint stain still lingered. The broken mask had been removed, the glass swept away, but the air itself held the memory of violence. Miss Marple's eyes did not linger on the obvious. Instead, they caught the details others overlooked. A wax drip hardened onto the rug, though no candle nearby seemed to have burned long enough to leave it. A book on the middle shelf, pulled halfway out as if snatched in haste, or left as a signal. The faint scuff mark upon the oak banister, deeper than a careless scratch, more like the desperate grip of a man fighting not to fall. Lady Constance's voice broke the silence. Inspector claims it was an accident. Lionel stumbled. The floor was slick with wine. What more could there be to say? Miss Marple looked up, her expression mild yet steady. Accidents, she murmured, rarely leave behind so many questions. The words seemed to ripple through the room. Henry shifted. Clara dabbed her eyes. Victor adjusted his cufflinks. Small movements, but to Miss Marple, each was as telling as a confession. She did not accuse. Not yet. Instead, she let the silence grow heavy again, forcing each person to sit with their own thoughts. And in that silence, Miss Marple knew Ashcroft Manor was not merely the scene of a tragedy. It was a house layered with secrets, secrets that had begun to stir, restless, now that death had pried them open. The masquerade had ended, but the true performance was only beginning.